Welcome back to Reviews and Rankings with Robbie Sobel, and today I'm going to take a look at the 2021 film Spiral from the Book of Saw. Spiral from the Book of Saw is a 2021 film directed by Darren Lynn Bousman and stars Chris Rock, Max Minghella, Marissa Nicholas, and Samuel L. Jackson. The story begins as we follow off-duty detective Marv Boswick as he's chasing down the thief until he's knocked out and suspended by his tongue in a subway tunnel. A TV playing a video of a person in a pig mask is shown, replicating Jigsaw's old MO. The masked individual gives Boswick the rules of his game in order to free himself, but the detective is unable to do so and he's killed in brutal fashion. A mysterious package is then sent to the police station, where it reveals hints of yet another crime against the police, in the form of another video and audio clip. Detective Zeke, played by Chris Rock, his partner, Detective William Shank, and Captain Angie Garza race to uncover the mystery of the apparent Jigsaw copycat. Zeke's father, former Captain Marcus Banks, played by Samuel L. Jackson, also lends a hand to put an end to the killings and save the remaining squad on the police force.
Copycat. This is gonna go sideways fast.
Hello, Detective Banks.
Alright guys, welcome back to the channel, and I have just gotten home from the movie theater checking out Spiral from the Book of Saw, the latest entry in the Saw franchise. Now it's important to mention that in the 8 previous films, they all centered around the character of Jigsaw, otherwise known as John Kramer, and that story all got wrapped up within those 8 films. This 9th film is not really considered a 9th Saw film, which was confirmed by director Darren Lynn Bousman about a month ago. This film takes place in that universe, but it's more of a spin-off. Now, the news kind of broke about this a little over a year ago. It was before the pandemic when this movie was supposed to come out, and the big news that kind of got everyone's attention was that Chris Rock was not only going to be an executive producer, but he was also going to star in the movie. Now, I'm not sure about you guys, but for me, I was a little taken aback at first. Chris Rock is known for being a comedian, whether it's his stand-up acts or his comedic films. He's had so much success, tremendous success in the world of comedy, but in a horror film? Wasn't really sure. It didn't take too long, though, before I just kind of took a step back and said, you know what, let's give Chris Rock a chance. Just because he's made his name in comedy doesn't mean he can't branch out into other subgenres. Well, I'm happy to tell you just right off the bat, Chris Rock did a solid job in this movie. Now, it's not perfect, it's not the best, but it's definitely better than a lot of people might have given him credit for. The film is tight at just over 90 minutes. It's paced well. It's got nice cinematography. You know, when you're watching a Saw movie, there's certain colors that kind of just pop out. Whether it's a green, whether it's a darker blue, whether it's flashes of red from time to time. And Spiral encompasses all of that, the kind of look of Saw, into its own movie while doing its own thing. Now, the story is simplistic. Chris Rock is a detective in a police department, and different cops in his police station start to kind of get picked off, and they're all left with tapes reminiscent of the Jigsaw killings, with the tapes offering the cops in peril a choice to play a game, and if they could succeed, they will be able to break free, or they will succumb to death. Now, there wasn't as many traps this time around, because this movie feels more of like a character piece than it does just a straight Saw film. So it does feel a little bit different. The important part about that is that Chris Rock really had this film on his shoulders, because this movie was so much about his character of Detective Zeke. His performance was going to make or break the film. And I thought he did a solid job. He should be commended for it. There was a little bit of humor from time to time, mostly early on, so you're able to kind of laugh and chuckle, but when the ball gets rolling with the story and the serious nature of it, that comedy takes a back seat and we're just kind of full steam ahead with being a more serious horror film. Director Darren Lynn Bosman has been in this spot before. He has directed Saw 2, 3, and 4, and he once again does another good job. Saw 2, 3, and 4 are arguably three of the best of the entire Saw franchise. So he was a credible individual to helm this project, and I think once again he did a good job. I don't think this film is as good as those three, but it's better than the weaker entries in the franchise. The traps are solid. The one that stands out the most is the one that you'll see at the beginning. They actually showed the opening scene for free. I'm not going to delve too much into spoilers, but it does involve being hung atop a subway with a speeding train coming his way, and this cop has to kind of break free or he'll be struck by the train, and that's not something that any of us want to have happen. The negatives about the film come more in the final act and in the reveal of the killer. I did feel it was a little bit weak. It wasn't as much predictable, but just the delivery and the way it kind of all unfolded seemed a little meh. It felt like it would more be in line with something that you'd see on like a crime TV show as opposed to just a Saw horror film. The way it totally ended out is in regards to the final shots are something that Saw fans will be pleased with, and it definitely leaves the door open for sequels if they decide to go that route. Now, if this film is successful, I wouldn't be surprised if it got greenlit for another film. I know there has been early talks about whether or not this movie would get a sequel, or would we see a continuation of the Jigsaw story. I'm not sure how they would do that, since that seemed like that was kind of wrapped up, but anything's possible, and this is kind of the chatter that's been going on in the community, the horror community, and then the movie community in general. For me, you know, most of these Saw films are movies that I enjoy. I like the story, and this kind of falls kind of in the middle. I was thinking about what I would actually rate this movie, and for me, it falls in as good, but not quite great. So I'm going to settle in for Spiral, the Book of Saw, getting 3.25 stars out of 5. A good flick that even if you haven't seen the 8 previous films, you can go into this blind and still enjoy it. You don't need to know the previous story. Now, if you have seen the other films, that's only going to be a plus, but it's not a necessity. Unfortunately, this seems to be split amongst critics and fans. The Rotten Tomatoes score is around 44%, and the audience score is around 75%. I'll put up what the current numbers are. They seem to be kind of changing a little bit here or there just because everyone's seeing the movie and getting their reactions out. I'm somewhere in the middle, probably more towards the positive side, though. I think the critics are going to be extra harsh. Typically, mainstream critics, when it comes to horror films, unless it's an established classic horror film or more on the art house side of things, they're going to bash it. They're not going to like it, especially if it's a sequel that's going to drag it through the mud. But the movie like this is not made for those mainstream critics. They're made for people like us in the horror community. Fans, people who just want to watch it and have a good time and know what they're going to expect from a Saw movie and not overthink things too much. Now, I do want to point out one other caveat about this film that I thought was interesting. Now, this film was made in 2019, and it was going to be released prior to the pandemic. That kind of threw a wrench into everybody's plans. But the source reason for why the killer is going after all of these police is essentially because the cops are considered dirty cops and bad, and he wants to wean out who shouldn't belong in the police force. And it kind of highlights the social issue that's really debated about a lot when it comes to police brutality and good cops and bad cops. And regardless of where you stand on that issue, that's a topic that is in the news, it's topical, and it's something that is very engaging. And I appreciate films that give me something that's more than what's on the screen, something that's beneath the surface. And having some social commentary in there, for me, delivers, and I appreciate it. So have you guys seen Spiral from the Book of Saw? If so, you can leave your comments below. And if you like this video, you can hit like. And if you loved it, you can subscribe. You can also visit me on Instagram and Twitter at RankingsRS. So thanks for checking out the channel, and keep watching movies.